What's up guys, Bionic here with another video on Raid Shadow Legends, and this one is going to be the top 20 champions of the first part of 2020. And what I mean by that is pretty much like the first quarter. So this list will serve as a reference for the endgame content. And what do I mean by endgame? I mean Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss, and I'm not talking about this on unkillable builds because it is going to get nerfed. And I'm also talking about speedruns for the level 20 dungeons. And you might be wondering, what do speedruns look like in 2020? Well, I can tell you guys that I've seen Ice Golem runs in under a minute. I've seen Dragon runs in under a minute. I've seen Spider runs in under a minute. And I've seen some Fire Knight runs in under a minute and a half. So that is what we will aim for with this list, is to be certain that you could have those builds. If you guys have watched my previous video of the top 15 champions that I posted about 8 months ago, then you will know that what I did is I picked the 5 top rare, top epics, and top legendary champions and explained the endgame basics. So this list will be similar in that sense. However, obviously things have changed. The community has progressed quite a lot since. So instead of having 5 of each, it's actually going to be 3 rares, about 7 epics, and then 10 legendaries. Okay, so we'll jump right in, but before I get started, I just want to quickly mention that I will be going through these very quickly. They've been talked about so many times before. I don't need to explain all their skills and why they're really good, but I will say a thing or two about them. And then in the end, what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll talk about some honorable mentions or some other champions that have fallen off the list and quickly explain why. So hopefully this video will be very quick for you guys and just a reference point, like I said, for the first part of the year. And then hopefully I can review it every quarter or so, or perhaps every 6 months, but we'll see just what the community comes up with for the next best builds. Okay, so in no particular order, we have for the rares, one of my favorite is gonna have to be Apothecary. It's pretty self-explanatory. The 30% increased speed along with the turn meter increase and the single target heal. Next rare is gonna have to be Bellower. Bellower is extremely good, especially in the beginning. He's most likely not going to be in your clan boss team or in your level 20 dungeon speed builds. However, he's a fantastic farmer because of his 3 AoEs, as well as a potential candidate for level 20 dungeons when you're starting off. I did use him for a while with the stun set, and that worked perfectly for me. And finally, the third rare is gonna have to be none other than Coldheart. She is just fantastic all around. She is in level 20 dungeon speed build, and she can be in your clan boss team early on. She also can sort of be in the arena, but it's just not typical to see her there. But obviously, she's there for the enemy max HP A3, as well as her AoE, which kind of helps and can play some poisons. Okay, now we're gonna jump right into the epics. So again, in no particular order, the first one on the list is gonna be Royal Guard. He is absolutely insane, and that is mostly due to his A2, which is an AoE based on enemy max HP. And the only thing better than a Royal Guard is actually 2 of them. The next one on the list is also in the High Elves. It is gonna be Tyrell. Now Tyrell is sought after mostly because of his A1 that decreases the attack, which is probably one of the best champions to do so, aside from the legendary Altan, and obviously his aura for the decreased defense. He also has the AoE decrease defense, which is very valuable in a lot of dungeons. Alright, now moving on to the Ogryn tribes, we're going to have Skullcrusher. Now Skullcrusher is one of the only few champions that has the team counter attack buff, and that is extremely valuable in the clan boss, especially for the Ultra Nightmare and Nightmare. So definitely another one you would want to have in your roster. And then also in the Ogryn tribes, we're going to have Occult Brawler. So this guy was a little bit underrated in the beginning, but now people are starting to notice just how powerful he is in the clan boss. So if you don't have a Draco or a Xavier or Nethril, this guy can actually maybe even surpass some of them. Probably not the Draco, but it's all because of his poison abilities. So definitely another strong champion to have in your roster. The next epic on the list is from the Skinwalkers, so it's going to be Steel Skull. Steel Skull is another very good champion to have for your clan boss, perhaps in some dungeons as well, but it's mostly for the poison. He has the heals, the cleanse or remove of the debuffs, as well as a 60% increased defense. The next champion on the list is another underrated champion because she was nerfed, but recently people have started coming up with some builds that show that she's still very effective, and that's because of this skill right here, which is also based on enemy max HP, but it works off of the buffs of allies and enemies. So if you want to really work on those clearing speeds for the level 20 dungeons, she's fantastic to have in there. So Seer, another great one. And then the final epic on this list is going to be Skull Crown. Obviously, she is fantastic in the arena, fantastic in some dungeons as well, mostly because of her AoEs and her unkillable buff. So she's definitely a pain to deal with in the arena. So if you have her, then you're pretty lucky. Alright, and now we're going to move on to the Legendaries. So this part was very hard, guys, because to only pick 10 Legendaries, there's so many others that are really good. But like I said, the idea here was to pick some of the most valuable champions to ensure that you have a good Ultra Nightmare clan boss, steady level 20 dungeon speed runs, and of effective Arena Gold Tier 4 team. Now pushing for Platinum, it's a little different. The meta seems to have changed. A lot of this is due to Tormund, and you will see his on this list, but I feel like it's so dependent on other champions for the build to work properly, so I'm still going to say that the speed build is still very relevant. So, first legendary is going to have to be Arbiter. First of all, she's accessible for everyone. She's Void, and she provides an overall very good speed aura for the arena. It's not the best one, but it's good enough. But the rest of her kit is still so good, especially with the res, turn meter increases, and the increased attack, so it makes her a very valuable champion. Next legendary is gonna have to be Venus. She has an amazing set of skills which include a poison, an AoE decreased defense, and a weaken, as well as an HP burn. So she's fantastic all around, and the best part is that she is Void. Next legendary champion is gonna have to be Valkyrie. So she was buffed. She also has the team counter attack buff, but she also has a shield aspect to it, which means in the clan boss she can definitely add a lot of survivability, especially if you run the 2 counter attack champion method. And I strongly believe that she has an edge over Martyr because of this, and if you use another champion like Skull Crusher, which has the ally protection, I think it's a slightly better setup. So anyway, she's definitely a very strong champion. The next champion on my list is from the Lizardmen faction, and it's none other than a Dracomorph. So this guy is the elite when it comes to poison champions, and he also has the AoE decreased defense and weaken, which by the way does not have a percentage chance to apply. Sorry, it really is just a guarantee, so as long as you can have the enough accuracy. And then another champion in the Lizardmen faction that I consider to be very, very strong is going to have to be one of the newer ones, Krisk the Ageless. So this guy has a very interesting set of skills, but one thing that can maybe help him stand apart is the fact that he can increase the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn. And I know some people have started coming up with builds of him in the Ultra Nightmare clan boss, so I'm guessing that, you know, in the coming months you will see a lot more of this guy, and he's also very fantastic in the arena and the level 20 dungeons. Alright, and now moving on to the Demon Spawn faction. So in here we've got this guy right here who I consider to be a game changer. If you want to have those speed runs, then you need this guy because of the reset on cooldowns of all ally skills, as well as a turn meter increase. So aside from that, he doesn't really stand out, but since the end game now is all about speed and clearing the dungeons, I have to put him on there because there's not really anybody else who can do this job as well as he does. He's also interesting in the arena, but that's really what he's mainly used for. And then another champion, another newer champion, also in the Demon Spawn faction, is Duchess. So she has an insane skill set, so many buffs. If you have like a Seer, that works very well with her, but also if you have another champion like Raglan, it becomes such a pain to deal with in the arena. So for that, I really have to put her on the list for now. Perhaps eventually she'll, be nerfed or people will figure out a way around it, but because of her insane skill set, I have to, like I said, put her on this list. Alright, and now moving on to the Undead Hordes, of course, none other than Bad Alcazar. This guy is probably, if not the best healer in the game. He's also a very good poisoner, which by the way also does not have a percentage chance to land. It's literally guaranteed, so as long as you have the accuracy, as well as increasing the damage while the targets are under poison, and the AoE heal on the A1, it's just absolutely fantastic. And then last but not least, the flavor of the month, obviously Tormund the Cold. Now Tormund's very hard to set up. He's very dependent on other champions, but he's also made other champions a lot more viable now because of this. But Tormund works very well with HP burn champions, so other champions like Drexar or Ignatius are now very good to have in the arena. So because of that, he has to be on this list. However, the reason why I don't put the other champions that works well with him on this list is because he's most likely going to get nerfed, and so we don't know if this meta is going to hold up for very long, but we'll see. Nonetheless, he's still a very fantastic champion, and the best part is that he was accessible as well, and he's void. So hopefully you guys have had the chance to get him. I know I did, but I just don't have the other champions to set him up properly, so unfortunately he's just going to sit in the vault for a little bit until I can figure out a good build for him that works well with my roster, of course. Alright guys, and now that's it for the list of top 20 champions. Right now, what I'm going to do though is quickly go over some of the honorable mentions or some of the underrated champions that you might not have heard of that can actually be useful. Okay, so first one in the rare category is going to have to be Valerie, because she can also increase the duration of buffs by 1 turn and also decrease the duration of debuffs by 1 turn. Not to mention she also has a shield that heals. So I think I've seen some guys come up with a setup that has Krisk the Ageless as well as her in the Ultra Nightmare clan boss. So pay attention, you might see more of her. The best part is that you can get her from the campaign. Then the next one we're going to look at is War Maiden. Now War Maiden is probably one of the most accessible AoE decreased defense champion in the game that has a 100% chance to land once you skill her up. The best part is that you can do it with duplicates from the campaign. I did it very early on. She's still useful in some level 20 dungeons as well as the arena. She is replaced by better champions as you progress through the game, but still it's a fantastic starting point. Alright, now the next champion, you probably never really heard of her. She is used in some level 20 dungeons, is basically a cheaper version of Prince Kymar, and she's called Renegade. The reason for this is because she basically does the same thing. Instead of reducing the cooldown of all allies directly to 0, it's by 2 turns, so she can actually be used in some speed runs of certain dungeons. Alright, she does take a little bit of damage when she does so, but it's not enough to kill her, and if you do have any kind of healer or res in your comp, then it shouldn't really be a problem. Alright, and now we're going to talk about the epics. The first one I'm going to mention is Zargala. She is very strong. She has an AoE decreased defense as well as a skill that basically activates her A3 if it kills an enemy. Fantastic in the arena. Also very good in some level 20 dungeons. The reason she is not on the list is because I feel like the meta right now is all about the enemy max HP AoE skills. But still, if you do have her, definitely work on her. And then the other epic champion I will quickly talk about, he's relatively new, but apparently he can work wonders on the clan boss or Ultra Nightmare clan boss, mostly because of this skill, which places a block debuffs for 1 turn as well as a 60% increased defense, and then he also has the decreased attack on a 4-turn cooldown, which is AoE. So I know some players have started using him with some very good results, so keep an eye out, you might see more of this guy as well. Alright, And now for the legendaries. Now you're probably wondering, for instance, why do I not see Martyr on this list? Why do I not see Sir Nicholas on this list? It's pretty simple, guys. I just think that because of the current setups or the current meta, there are some slightly better combinations to let's say the Ultra Nightmare Clan boss with the double counter attack method. So Martyr is still very, very good. If you have her, you're probably going to use her. However, if I would have to pick which ones I would want first, it would have to go to, like I said, Valkyrie and Skullcrush. And then for Sir Nicholas, it's a little bit the same thing. He can be in the level 20 dungeons, but like I said, the meta is really just about speed, and he does not tend necessarily to speed things up. Rather, he just adds a lot of survivability. Same thing in the arena. Maybe you guys think he should really be on this list. Maybe we can have that discussion later on, but for now, he is not there. Okay, the next legendary honorable mention is Altan. He's like a better version of Tyrell. He has a better aura. He has a decreased attack on his A1 as well. He has the 60% increased defense buff on all allies. The thing is that I just feel like Tyrell can already do that job well enough. So if I would have to pick in terms of which legendaries I would want first, Altan wouldn't be there because Tyrell would be there. And I also feel that Tyrell is sufficient to have an Ultra Nightmare Clan boss team that can do it in 2 or 3 keys. So for that reason, he's currently not there, but that might change in the coming months. So another something we can discuss. One of the honorable mentions has to be Lissandra. So Lissandra is very strong. She doesn't have the best speed aura, but it's an all-around speed aura, not just the arena. But what really makes her stand out is the fact that she can add a 30% increased speed, as well as reduce the turn meter by 30% of enemies and increase the one of allies by 30%. Not to mention she can fully deplete the turn meter of one target, so fantastic for the Fire Knight, as well as very useful in the arena. But she's just not on the list because some of the speed compositions that I've seen do not use her. Doesn't mean she isn't good, like I said, but I just didn't feel like she would be on the list for now. Alright, and now the next one is going to have to be Vizier. This guy is apparently broken or just very, very strong because of his A1 that increases the duration of all debuffs by 1 turn. Now, for that to work properly, though, is that you need other champions like a good poisoner for this to work properly. So because he's dependent on other champions in that sense, I didn't feel like he needed to be on the list. And I don't think you absolutely need him to 2 or 3 key Ultra Nightmare Clan boss, but still he is very, very strong. So if you do have him, don't worry, he's still worth investing in. Another legendary champion to mention is also from the Dark Elves and is Xayvia. So Xayvia is a fantastic poisoner. It's an AoE poison which can put up 2 debuffs on all enemies, and more importantly, she has a skill that consumes all poisons and deals damage directly. So as you can imagine, it's fantastic in the dungeons, but because of the affinity type, it's only really effective against the dragon. So aside from that, I feel like there are better poisoners for the clan boss, which means that the poison method or the speed poison method in the dungeons feels like it's a little bit outmatched by the enemy max HP AoE builds. So for that reason, I'm leaving her out of the top 20 for now, but that doesn't mean she isn't strong. I just got 2 of this champion, and I am going to work on her, but still I feel like she's going to have to sit out for this round. And last but not least, the last honorable mention I'm going to have to give to is obviously Hegemon. So this guy was up for grabs for an insane amount of money not too long ago. He does guarantee that you go first in each round, so fantastic for the arena. However, because the meta has switched over now to very tanky or teams that are very resistant, like the Tormund and Ignatius combo type of thing, I feel like this is not so relevant right now. But still, right before Tormund came out, this guy was the go-to guy for speed builds. So if you do have him, then great. He's Void, that's even better. But right now, I don't feel like he should be on the list until the meta changes back or major changes are done on Tormund. Alright guys, so that about sums it up. This is going to be my first version of the top 20 champions of 2020. So if you have any of these champions, then great. If you have many of them, then you most likely have some very good setups for the end game content. I know I don't have a lot of them, So you got to work around, you got to work with whatever the game throws at you. So don't worry if you don't have them, but still it is something that you should aim for eventually. And I know I just say it's, you know, there's something to work towards, but basically you just have to wait until you actually pull them from shards. So hopefully you don't put in too much money to try and get them, or you just be like myself and just be patient, and then eventually you'll have, you know, something that allows you to go through the end game content. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, thank you for watching, and don't forget to check the description to see how you can support my channel. Later, guys.